Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto. Show me the crypto.
In a world on the brink of disruption, two men will bring you clarity by interviewing some of the most intelligent and influential names in the blockchain world. Welcome to Show Me the Crypto with your hosts, Wade Patterson and Ulf Lonergan.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Show Me the Crypto. My name is Wade Patterson.
And I'm Ulf Lonergan.
We're a couple of friends from Canada who love learning about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, and we're happy you're along for the ride. Whether you're a crypto virgin or you know your way around the block, we hope our interviews with some of the most intelligent and influential people in the blockchain space help deliver you with value. And on this episode, we're joined by Joe Sticco, co-founder and CEO of Cryptex. Prior to buying his first Bitcoin in 2014, Joe was a longtime trader and asset manager. With the realization the financial landscape was rapidly changing, Joe dove deeper into crypto in 2016. In October 2018, he began building Cryptex, which officially launched this past April. Cryptex's flagship product is TCAP, which is a token that represents the total crypto market cap, which is currently just shy of $3 trillion. Joe, welcome to Show Me the Crypto.
What's up? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you on and dive into everything Cryptex and TCAP. But before we get there, as I mentioned in the bio, you bought your first Bitcoin in 2014, and then my understanding is you traded it pretty quickly. But how did you discover Bitcoin in the first place, and what was your initial impression of it?
I first discovered Bitcoin on StockTwits. So they were. I was a member of StockTwits back in the early days in 2012. I got onto StockTwits and basically, had come from like the Yahoo message boards, like where you just like go on there and like troll. Like this is like prior to like Wall Street Bets and like all the things we have today. It's like you go on there and like you like troll and like then I'm like, oh wait a minute, like StockTwits, like this is much more like professional. So I got on there and met up with Howard Lindzen, who was like the founder of StockTwits at the time. So, they all started like talking about all these different things. And I would see in the community is like, BTC. So I looked into it, read the paper and like was just, wow, like this is amazing. And then like any, degenerate trader at the time bought some on like Mt. Gox for like, $6,000, checked it a couple days later. It was worth like $9,000, thought I was a genius. Sold it and like forgot about it for a while. And then, checked the price again a couple of years later and realized like, how silly I was for trying to like buy and trade it and, ended up buying some and just, I still hold it to this day.
You could have left it in Mt. Gox and you might have had a worse story to tell. So.
Yeah, no, that was, those were the days in the beginning when, you would go through Gox and, just like how we were talking about, poker earlier, like, you would make your deposits before Black Friday in poker and you'd get a receipt from like, Mike's golf balls or like whatever it was they were doing at the time. And then you just went on your way. So not like the sketchiness of it, like that didn't really scare me like with Mt. Gox or things like that. Cause you didn't know, you just knew you were buying this new and exciting asset that you wanted to take a part of. And this is where it was at the time. And, as the space has evolved, obviously now we have all, KYC and all these other factors that make us as consumers feel very safe. But back then, it was like the wild west, and now we're just in the Wild West, but yeah. So
that's awesome. And in the bio, Wade mentioned some of your history, but if you can tell us, before moving into crypto, as far as like a career goes, you were doing some trading of traditional assets. Can you just give us maybe the more expanded history of everything that led up to crypto?
Absolutely. So I'm a career asset manager and lifelong trader. So I got into the business fresh out of school. I mean, my family had a small firm at the time that they owned and operated. So they gave me a position like, as like a clerk, worked my way up to getting my securities licenses. And then from there, started managing, client capital. and worked up a significant size book, and traded all traditional assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all different types of assets, and at the same time was trading for myself, my own account. So I was building a business in one aspect, and then the other side trading the markets, and went from there to just seeing this shift start to take place, where you started to see more and more people get involved in the crypto space. And you started to see, a lot of names that prior to, the price expansions and, the initial bull cycle that we saw in 2017, like you started to see people really, really get behind the asset. And I was like, this is going to be like the future. Like this is going to morph. It's going to go into this whole situation. And I remember, at the time telling everybody that I knew about, Bitcoin and crypto, friends, family members, and everybody would just look at you like you were crazy. They would give you like this face, like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I don't need that. I don't need that for payments. Like I could just use my card, or like, I don't need this, or I don't need so what, it went up, like my stock went up 100%. Like people didn't really get it. And then, a lot of the people then saw the expansion in 2017. And then they got it, right? And then we saw the correction, from peak to trough, like 85%. And then everybody, was super mad at you and was looking at you like, why did I get in so late? And I shouldn't have bought this. But all those people, they're not really saying too much right now. They're all happy, So we're at the still, I think the early stages of crypto, not only as an asset class but as an ecosystem. And I think you're going to continue to see, different things take place, and all of these sectors within the total market cap of crypto, be it the metaverse, be it decentralized finance, be it, payment networks, or all these other different things that we're working on. You're just really going to see things continue to just go crazy.
One of the things I think so impressive, and people are reaping the rewards now. So for example, during the bear market, like you mentioned, big price run up in 2017, early 2018, then the crash. And the businesses and the people like yourself who stuck around and built during that time now are at a point where, having great success during this bull market. But was that difficult for you? Like you mentioned 2014, kind of quickly selling and then having a bit more conviction in 2016, 2017. But were you still a little nervous seeing that 85% dip and wondering, is this...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been time, like during that period, there was because I knew like once that we launched, like my traditional career was finished. What I had worked prior my entire life for, was going to come to an end once we launched, in April, and we had spent, 2+ years developing. So we're building, during this bear market cycle, and for the most part of it. And then, for us looking at, for me personally, like I wanted to take my, experiences in traditional markets and kind of like bring that knowledge into this new and expanding space of crypto, right? So I looked, long and hard at all the different things that I could come up with or I could create. And I'll never forget it, just one day sitting there like, okay, like, how do we have we have like an S&P 500, like we have a total crypto market, a total stock market. How do we apply the same thing to crypto? And then I started, just doing research and Googling and looking up different things. I'm like, wait a minute, like, why doesn't this exist? Like, how does this not exist in the world? And you started to see, baskets and all the traditional types of, dinosaur products that have been around for forever. Now they're just applying that same structure and methodology to crypto. So you're looking at all these different things and you're like, yeah, but like that doesn't solve anything because you have a basket of tokens that I could just go buy anyway. So why am I going to pay you 250 basis points for that when I could just go take what you're doing and just buy that same stuff? So that didn't make much sense to me. And then obviously, the ETF wars of 2018, 19, and 20 and early 21 until we finally now have, futures-based Bitcoin ETFs. But I started to look at all these things and I said, like, well, there's no total market cap. And I either thought that it couldn't be built or that I was just crazy or something. But my whole life, like, I've just been, if somebody's telling me I can't do something, I'm going to want to go do it. So, for me, that was kind of like my, oh shit moment. Like, okay, like there's no total market cap in a single token. How do we build that in a fully decentralized, fully trustless, fully autonomous way? And I think that became like an obsession of trying to make that solve. And as a little bit of time went by and the team kind of expanded, we started to work through some of these things and realized that we had some magic.
Awesome. And so, because we want to get into TCAP itself, and this has been a good primer, what you just mentioned, but then to I guess look at it from the company level, like, was Cryptex born out of the idea to create total market cap coin, or are they one and the same, or is there something more overarching that Cryptex is looking to do and TCAP's just one part of that?
Yes. So Cryptex, when we founded Cryptex, it's crypto and it's indexes, right? Mm-hmm. So, Cryptex, and we just wanted something simple that the people could connect with. So TCAP, that is the first solution of an entire, realm of solutions that are going to be coming. And once we get into the structure of how this works and what makes TCAP so different than, anything else that's on the market today, we'll have a little bit more to discuss there. But I think that, to start, Cryptex was born to create, fully trustless, decentralized solutions that are available to the entire world. That's our mission statement, is to create things that know no limits, that are available to somebody, whether they have, $1 or $100 million, they're still able to access the same protocol in a fully decentralized manner. It's something that we strive for and we're working to accomplish every day.
So there's a pretty cool story, and I'm hoping you can share it with our audience, that when you first heard about, I guess it was, Preston Van Loon, who is co-founder as well of Cryptex. It has something to do with the basement of a Deli, gathering intel as part of an investigation. So can you share that with our audience?
Yeah, that's a fact. So the way that the legend goes, there's been a couple of really cool Cryptex stories. This is one of my favorites. So the way that the story goes is that my ex at the time, her father is he's in like investigations, like he works for the city. He does a lot of different really like crazy stuff. So I had told him about crypto. We talked about it, and he just literally dove headfirst into it, like just was like amazed by what it was, and asked no questions and went right into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So one day, he's out working. He's doing an investigation of some sort in a bodega in a deli, and the video guy who gets the video for these investigations, they're in a basement, and they have a couple minutes before they're going to work. So like they're just chatting, and he's like, oh, so what do you know about cryptocurrency? Mike had asked, our buddy James, and James is like, what do I know about cryptocurrency? Like my best friend Preston, like builds the whole thing. Like he builds Ethereum, like he builds the network. So he's like, wait a minute, what? He builds the whole. So like I get a phone call, 20 minutes later, Mike's like, Joe, I know the guy that builds Ethereum. And I'm like, wait a minute, like that's Vitalik. You met Vitalik? And he's like, no, the other guy. Preston. I'm like, Preston. So I'm okay. So we wind up, James sets up a meeting. Preston gets on. He's like, hey, like, come to Google, because he was still working at Google at the time. Come to Google and I'll sit down with you and listen to what you have to say. So basically, yeah, I mean, we wound up going to Google. And then a week before I have the meeting, I'll never forget this. A week before I have the meeting, Vitalik had sent out like his YOLO tweets where he was just like the people who were doing the network, the securing the networks on the Ethereum 2, platform, like Prism and all these other guys. they basically said like he's just YOLOing ETH, and Preston's like, I wish I had more support from the Ethereum Foundation and blah 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 blah. And Vitalik just slid through like, just gave you 1,000 ETH YOLO, and I'm like, yo, like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm meeting this guy. I'm meeting this guy in a week, and I'm meeting him from a meeting that took place in the basement of a bodega. Like, it doesn't get more crypto than like that story. So, I wind up going to Google, and at the time, we had like basically an APY of total market cap, an API of total market cap that just calculated the total crypto market cap data, which at the time was whatever, $180 billion. And, we had a divisor to it of 10 billion. So now you have a token that's $18. The 180 billion divided by 10, you have an $18 token. And the $18 is moving to the penny as if it was the total market cap. So we had gotten there by ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I go to Google with my fancy API, and I'm walking in to meet Preston, and I'm like, this guy's going to love this, and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's going to be done. And, the rest is history. So we go there, we eat lunch, and I'm on my iPad, and I'm like pitching him this, and he's looking at me, and he's just like, yeah, okay. So what's it backed by? And I'm like, what's it backed by? What do you mean? The number, it goes up and it goes down, and people could buy and sell it and trade. He's like, but what's it backed by? And he wound up getting really, really mad at me. Because he's like, you can't just say that this is the total market. This is the total market cap. You can't just say that it just does this. And I'm like, but it goes up and down. It does. And he's like, no. So, all right, cool meeting. I'll call you in a couple of weeks if I'm interested. And I left there, and I'm like, wow, for somebody who spent their life doing this, like, how did I overlook that key fact? So I honestly thought I was never gonna hear from him again. I'm like, that's it. Like, I blew my shot. That's Preston Van Loon, the world famous Ethereum developer. Like, that was it. It's over. So he told me he'd call if interested. And, a couple weeks went by, and my phone rings, and it's Preston. So here I am. I'm like, all right, he's gonna yell at me again. So I pick up the phone, and he's just like, listen, what you're doing is really cool. I like it. I want to help you build it.
Cool.
And then we started to get into all the actual, the system, which we'll talk about in a little bit, of what makes, TCAP so special. And that the rest was history. That from then on, we grew the team to include. So Preston is the co-founder and the blockchain lead. We have Chris Garner, who heads up the smart contract development. We have, Tom Matzner, who handles all of our branding. And we have myself, who just kind of, comes up with different ideas and works to make the protocol the best that it possibly can be with the rest of the team. And, for anybody who's listening, we are actively hiring. So if anybody's looking for, blockchain positions or community positions or anything that they could do to assist the DAO, we're happy to take a look, and actively hiring.
Nice. So that's, by the way, awesome story. I absolutely love it. But can you then now tell us about some of those, from where you started to having an API that had a coin go up and down in price to presumably a much different present? Can you explain some of the then the ways it works and some of those challenges you had that have been overcome? And I mean, obviously it might get technical. We'll try and keep it as simple as possible, but
yep, I'll work to keep it as simple as I can. So basically, when you're working with a solution that, you can't go out, nobody can go out and buy the entire cryptocurrency market cap, because that would be thousands and thousands of individual coins. But when you look at anybody who's from the traditional world, you want to own something as an asset class. You want to have the entire market. You don't want to have, that way you could say, look, I have my equities, I have my bonds, I have my traditional stuff, I have my REITs, I have, whatever you have, but then I have my crypto over here. And I have something that's tracking the entire market of crypto. So you have, that group of people that you're catering to. Then ultimately you want to have the traders who have the option to come in and trade TCAP for, the full exposure of the total market. you have your holders, you have all your different, forms of people. So when I looked at this, I said to myself, this can accomplish many things. It could reach many different groups, but it has to be done, and with Preston and Chris, like anything that wasn't fully decentralized and, fully autonomous, like they wanted nothing to do with it. And rightfully so, because who am I or who are we to just say, we made the coin of total market cap, so we're going to ICO and we're going to pre-sell the total market cap coin that's supposed to represent the entire world of crypto just because we said so? Like, no, absolutely not. And with Cryptex, there was no ICO, there was no pre-sale, there was no pre-mine, there was no sale, there's no VCs. It was all us, right? So the next question obviously is, how do they come into existence? Well, you have to mint them. And in order to mint them, you have to create a vault. So any user can create a vault, and you deposit Ethereum or DAI to that vault. And the system works where you over collateralize the vault. So you deposit 150% TCAP, 150% Ethereum. You mint your TCAP, and now you have brought this total market cap token into the world. Right. So the system is fully backed. And in order for them to come into existence, you mint them. So now that you've minted them, you can hold them. You could take them to a secondary AMM like Sushi Swap, and you can trade them or sell them. And now they're in the world. So the system, the point of the system was that each one is now fully collateralized and fully backed. So that value that I was just showing Preston on a screen in 2019, in 2021 is actually backed by, Ethereum or DAI. So you're now getting the movement of total market cap, because again, the formula for it is you have the total market cap number, for which, all intents and purposes, let's call it $3 trillion. Like any index would, you give that a divisor, in our case, $10 billion. So now, 10 billion is the divisor. So now you have a token that's $300, right? And that $300 nominal asset now moves in lockstep to the underlying that it's tracking at all times, which is total, crypto market cap data. Get into a second where the data comes from. But point is that you're now minting $300 worth of that asset through Ethereum or DAI. It's fully backed. And now it's moving based on an Oracle system that is powered by Chainlink. So we work with Chainlink, and to getting total crypto market cap data, we have 5 data providers. You have CoinMarketCap, you have Nomics, you have CoinGecko, you have CoinPaprika, and CoinLore. A couple of names sound a little silly, but when I tell you these are some of the largest data providers in the space, they are. Yeah. So that data is then published. Total market cap data is then published to Chainlink. Call that number, 3 trillion. That number is then put on chain and verified by a series of oracles. So the oracles are saying that this is a factual number. They're signing off. It's going onto the blockchain and being printed. We then further aggregate it from 3 trillion to, divisor of 10 billion to $300. That's the number that is the oracle price. That's what the users are minting against. And now they're able to own total crypto market cap through that system. And that's basically a little rundown of it.
Is there any benefit to minting versus, like you mentioned, Sushi Swap or something along those lines? Like, to get TCAP, is one way better than the other, or is it not matter?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on the audience, right? So if you're somebody who's looking to provide liquidity, or you're looking to be really, really involved in the system, you're going to be a minter. If you want to take advantage of arbitrage, you're going to be a minter, because there's obviously in the future going to be multiple places that TCAP is listed. So you have arbitrage opportunities of minting it at an oracle price and then selling it at the secondary market price, because there's always going to be premiums and discounts that live between these assets in the entire world. And anything that's an ETF or traditional asset, you always notice that there's a premium or a discount to where NAV is, or net asset value. So if you're actively involved in the protocol, you're going to be minting. But if you're just somebody that wants to go in and just own the asset. You just buy it on a decentralized exchange or a DEX, and you don't have to worry about any of the minting stuff. But Cryptex is a DAO, so we operate as a community, right? So the community is actively involved, and we're growing every single day. It's wonderful to see.
Ulf, do you realize our audience has been either watching or listening to this episode for 20 minutes?
20 minutes? No, they should probably subscribe.
Yeah, they should subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you comment and turn on notifications. And if you're listening to this podcast, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review.
We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. So go check out the episode description. You can find all that information below. And we have an update on the NFT, don't we?
That's right. We didn't previously mention this, but this NFT for OG supporter is a one of one. There will only be one of this kind ever minted, and we have a few surprises for the person who purchases it. The link is in the episode description.
And back to the episode. Awesome. So yeah, you mentioned that Cryptex is a DAO. That's great timing because I was actually going to ask the question around that. I guess the question is Cryptex a DAO, or is there Cryptex the company and the Cryptex DAO, or is it like one of these evolution paths where it started as a company and has evolved into a DAO?
Cryptex from launch has been, so we launched TCAP on April 7th of 2021. We launched CTX, the governance token powering the DAO, on April 17th. So we've been a DAO since inception. And anything that we do is voted by our community, right? So the team believes in 100% fully, being 100% fully decentralized. We've launched a lot of really cool initiatives we'll get into to talk about how serious we are about that, but anything that we do is governed by a community. Our community is wonderful people. It's again growing every single day, and everybody really supports the mission. So the beautiful thing about being a DAO is obviously you have your governance token that powers the community, and with governance, holders can vote on DAO proposals. They can make proposals. And they could basically, work in the best interest to, manage how the treasury of the DAO is utilized. So our governance token CTX trades right now on Gemini. So anybody can go onto the Gemini exchange and take a look at CTX. Obviously, not going to recommend to purchase it because that involves people, doing their own research. But definitely take a look at it and check it out. TCAP is available for custody on Gemini. So you could, purchase TCAP on a secondary market and then, a DEX, and then, have Gemini provide world-class custody for that. But, the governance has been a wonderful part of the system. Like on October 17th, we launched single-sided staking. So we have liquidity pools, like going back to before what I was saying about if you're minting, you could, either way, if you mint or just purchase, you could always go into a liquidity pool. But, you see a lot with the minters, they mint and then they put it into the liquidity pool. So you have these liquidity pools that are earning CTX for users that are providing liquidity or different things to the protocol. So we launched single-sided staking on October 17th. The goal was to have 400,000 CTX within that. And I believe that we literally just hit that mark, like 400,000 CTX have been staked in like a month and change. So they are fully decentralized now, and anybody within the community can delegate CTX to one of the system keepers known as the Crypt Keepers. They could read their bios, they could talk to them in the community, they could ask about their involvement in the protocol, and every keeper is actively involved in our community and wants the best and wants to see us succeed. And these are the people that are making the decisions. They're the ones that get to do these awesome things. And the dev team is here to build. We are. So,
And And sorry, excuse my ignorance, but what does single-sided staking mean?
So basically,
The single-sided part, mostly, I'm unsure of.
Yeah. So a great question. So when you enter a traditional liquidity pool, typically the pool is half Ethereum and then half, whatever the staking asset is.
Yeah.
So that's like traditional, right? But with single side, you enter into a liquidity pool with one asset, in this case, CTX.
Okay.
And then when you stake that CTX, you earn more, CTX on that asset, right? So it's single sided as opposed to the traditional ETH or ETH sushi or ETH link or whatever it is that you're staking. But the point is, like the important factor is that what we're very impressed by is when you see 400,000 CTX come back into single sided staking. What that tells you is the confidence amongst the community in what you're doing. Right. So that's the biggest driver for us, is that we have a community that's fully supporting what we're doing. And to me, that's the most bullish aspect. Prices go up and down every day. There's nothing you can do to control that. But what you can do is say, hey, listen, this community supports us. They believe in the decentralization mission that we have, and we all work together and to achieve that any way that we can.
And I'm just wondering about that staking program. So you can stake your CTX to earn more CTX. From a governance side, like let's say I want to get behind the project, like what you guys are doing, and I want to acquire some, governance tokens of my own. So I go and purchase some, and then I stake some. How long will that program last for? Is there like, an end result where a certain number are going to be minted, and then that's kind of the cap there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so single-sided staking is going to be with us for the duration of the protocol. We hope that that's 10, 20 years, right? Like you want to be here a very, very long time building. But we're doing the pools in 6-month increments. So the pool just started in October 17th, or excuse me, October 24th. The rewards started, and we wanted to do them in 6-month increments because, number one, that allows the protocol to upgrade the contracts in the future, which is always important, especially if you start to scale to other, level 2s or different networks, right? So you want to have the ability to upgrade, but at the same time, you want to get the data to show, okay, was the amount that we put into this pool, sufficient? Was everybody happy? And so far, all of those things have been true. So 6 month, the pool, we deposited 60,000 CTX into that pool, which is currently earning 30% APY, and it's achieving its purpose. It's doing what it's supposed to do, and we have 100% plans to extend that after 6 months and keep it going, and that's what we'll do.
Going back to the TCAP minting process and the fact that it's backed by 1.5 times either Ethereum or DAI. I mean, DAI, this wouldn't be relevant for, I guess, but on the Ethereum side, this might be a silly question, but if the market was to go through a really volatile cycle, or would there ever be a risk, I guess, is what I'm asking, if like that was minted at a certain price that Ethereum had, and then there was a big market correction or something along those lines?
Right. Well, we wanted to start with Ethereum, and that was a great question, by the way. We wanted to start with Ethereum and DAI for a couple of reasons. When you look at total correlation of the market, ETH and total market cap correlate very well, right? Because ETH obviously makes up a large part of total market cap. Now, obviously, there are going to be instances where it's subject to its own, risk in the market, such as if things don't succeed as planned by the ETH developers, or whatever it may be. So you do run some risk there. But we wanted to start with those two because the correlation was there between total market cap and the underlying. So basically, in the event that there, obviously it's crypto, so there's always going to be risks associated with anything. But with that said, if you do fall below the collateral ratio, you do run the risk of getting liquidated, right? And if you get liquidated, what's going to happen is somebody's going to purchase your vault debt at a discount. They're going to bring you back up to 150%, and they're going to charge a 10% liquidation penalty to do so. So we make it very clear that using the network is at your own risk. The team we have no access to user vaults. It's not something that we have any access to. So, we do make it very clear. And so far, with 6 months of data, 7 months of data, nobody's been liquidated. Everybody's on top of it, so that's one thing that's great. But also they're going to be used in different instances. Like if we're going through a bull cycle, you're going to be looking at ETH as your underlying. If we're going through a bear market cycle, you're going to be looking at DAI as your underlying, because now you can mint TCAP with DAI, right? The price of TCAP can fall, and you could buy back that debt at a cheaper price and make that spread on your DAI for virtually, doing nothing but holding DAI. So we think that it's funny. We think that during a bear market, which we have not seen, we saw a couple pullbacks, but we haven't seen. You guys know what a bear market is. We haven't seen that yet.
Unfortunately, I know all too well.
So what we're gathering is that when that happens, that's going to be a significant point of interest for the world. Is that, hey, I could put my DAI here. I could now, crypto's pulling back. I can mint this asset. I could earn governance on this asset if I want to be involved in the protocol, and just go from there. But in the meantime, while we're in a bull cycle, we are actively adding new vault collateral choices. We're looking to add them every day. So we did a protocol snapshot about 2 weeks ago. And we asked the community, what assets do you want to see as vault collateral? What do you all want to see? And the vote was great, and the feedback was tremendous. And the community voted that they wanted Link and Aave to be the next two collateral choices, and followed by AMP. So our goal on our level now is to actively reach out to those communities and say to those communities, here is another utility for the asset that you're holding. And it's all, at the end of the day, it's all about, community awareness, right? Like you want to be able to go to each of these communities, tell them, what's going on, like what the options are, what they can do. And if they want to do it, then great, and if they don't, they can continue doing what they're doing. The point is to have choices. The point is to have options. And I think if we do our job in terms of education, and we do a good enough job of educating, users as to what additional utilities are, then we all win. So, and plus people, all these different tokens have different correlations, right? So like Link might move a certain way, Aave might move a certain way, and people might want to use that to speculate when minting TCAP. And our job is to just give them as many choices as possible.
When you were discussing the oracles and where you get your data from, I mean, that was that all made sense. But a question I have is, there's so many crypto tokens and assets being created constantly. If you look at CoinGecko as of today, I think there's like somewhere around 11,000 different coins. I presume it's just not really a concern of yours, because the oracles, and the aggregators, they take care of that data, like as far as new coins getting added and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we don't handle data. We aggregate it obviously on our side, but the actual median prices and all the different things that calculate the index, those come from Chainlink, right. And the thing about why total market cap is, when you look at all of those 11,000 different tokens, or however many it is, total market cap is weighted by total market cap. So the number 11,000 is not going to be number 3 or whatever the case may be. They're all going to be weighted according to their market cap. So as market cap grows, there's no way of ever knowing. Somebody used to once say to me, never discount somebody because you never know if they hit the lottery. You never discount anybody or any project or any team. So the point is that number 11,000 right now, that might be number 4 in the future. There's no way of knowing that. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. All we know is that we build, right? So with that said, as they work their ways up, they could become a significant part of total market cap. But you have a $3 trillion pool right now. You know, it's definitely something that you know, is moving every day. But to answer your question, sorry for the long version, but to answer your question, we don't calculate, you know, that all comes from the data providers and is brought on chain by Chainlink.
Cool. You told a pretty good story about Preston, and I saw on your website, perhaps there's a pretty good story about how you got listed on Gemini as well.
Oh my God.
What happened there?
So this is just story time. I love it. So, with Gemini, it was August of 2019, and we had just gotten back from the Asia Blockchain Summit. We went out there to Taipei. Wonderful experience. Loved the people, loved the culture, the food. Everything was phenomenal. You know, had a phenomenal time out there. So we get back. And now I'm all hyped up, right? Like I'm ready to keep building. Like Preston's on board. We're doing all this really cool stuff. So I go to one of my VC friends, and I'm like, hey, like we need to try to raise some more we need to raise some capital because we were just doing it ourselves. So we need to get some more money over here. Like he's like, okay, let's meet in Soho. So we go to Soho, and I pitch him, and he's like really into it. But then he's like, well, what's the valuation? I'm like, I don't know. It's just this. He's like, well, how much you need? And we start talking. He's like, look, you know, I can help you on a social currency basis. I'm not going to put money into the project. And we're like, okay, cool. So we leave there. And at the time, you know, I go to, you know, see the girl I was dating at that time. And she was working down in the West Village. So I stop at Joe's Pizza, which is my favorite pizza joint down there. And I'm sitting on the corner, and I look up and I just see these two, you know, really tall guys, like literally just jogging past me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, they're both wearing like matching shorts, and they're both wearing like, you know, matching shirts, and or they had different shirts on, matching shorts, and the same sneakers. So they just run past me, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know something? Those guys are really with it. They're jogging together, and they're going, and they're just having a good time. So I start thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, like those guys, those are twins, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. And my brain's like working in like a real time. So I'm like, all right, you know, that's the Winklevoss twins. Like that's Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. And I'm like, all right, I could sit here and eat this pizza. And before I could finish the statement of, or I can get up and go, I just got up and just ran. Yes. So now I'm running after them, and they're very fast. You know, they're like Harvard, like D1 athletes. Like, you know, I'm sitting there like I got a slice of pizza in my hand. I'm like, so I'm trying to like chase them and catch them. It took me 6 blocks to get those guys. And they finally stop at a red light, and I just run right up to them. I'm like, listen, like I'm building this, and you know, this is what's going on. They're just like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Okay, you got a card? I'm like, no, I got some pizza back down there. And they're like, all right, listen, email this person, and if we're interested in talking, we'll call you back. It's like a month goes by, and I get an email, and it's like, hey, you know, we'd like to talk about some different things. And, you know, all that it didn't lead to anything in terms of them investing in the project or anything like that. But what it did lead to was, you know, able to have active conversations with their exchange. And they knew us as the guys that, you know, ran them down in the street to pitch, you know, a deal. So always took our phone calls, never told us no, always just kind of said, you know, come back when you have a little bit more, come back. You know, it was never like, we're not interested. It was like, keep building and update us on your progress. So we launch, and like, you know, one of the second phone calls I made after that was to them, like, not to the twins, to their team. Yeah. Like, hey, you know, we launched this, you know, this thing, and they're like, okay, let's chat about it. We have another chat, and you know, shout out to Gemini. Gemini is a wonderful team of people. Like, love them, and not even just because they listed CTX, but because they were always there to learn about us and ask questions. And it never felt like, you know, you're crazy. It felt like, okay, you could do this, but we'll talk. So we have this meeting, and then a couple of weeks go by, we get a phone call, and they're like, we're listing you. We're going. And that was right around Bitcoin, you know, Miami. So, went down to Miami, and again, it was amazing. Like I'm staying at the hotel, and who jogs past me at the hotel now? And I look up and I'm like, guys, like we're getting listed on your exchange, and they're like, we know. How you doing? And we had like 2-minute small talk, and
Cool.
but it went full circle, and for anybody out there that is listening to this, that is developing in this space, you never know what's going to happen. And all you can do is to keep building and to keep trying, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And this is literally a story of what could happen tomorrow. Like we got listed on the most, one of the most regulated, largest crypto exchanges in the world. And, it's in terms of exchanges, it's just the beginning. So we're very proud of that.
I love it. That's such a cool story. And just in general, you've done such a good job explaining everything, breaking it down. We're just about at the last section of our interviews. We ask the same 3 questions to every guest. But before we go there, I'm curious about the future. You alluded to it earlier, some of that TCAP's kind of the first project that Cryptex has. But what's on the horizon? What do you hope to release in the future?
So right now the roadmap is we want to continue with the mission of getting TCAP and CTX into the hands of the world. And one of the most important ways to accomplish that is speed, affordability, marketability. People have to be aware of it, and just functionality. So we're working on building level 2s, operating on level 2 networks like Polygon, Arbitrum, or Optimism. So the next thing that you could see for TCAP is new vault collaterals coming online, level 2s coming online, and upgrading the vault system to vaults 2.0, where you have the ability to stake your underlying collateral and earn interest on that while minting TCAP, and have this all done in a fully autonomous way. But furthermore, rolling out new collateralized solutions. So these are all things that are in the development right now. And the goal is to have all of this stuff not powered by a core team or a centralized group of individuals, but powered by anybody who wants to be involved in it. Everything that we do is fully audited by QuantStamp. Disclosure, Don Ho, the co-founder of QuantStamp, is an advisor to Cryptex. So we have, the ability to have all these things audited by one of the most, prestigious auditing firms in the world, and just build the future of, new vaults, new collateral types, new tokens, L2 networks, and have all these things functioning in their own world and governed by a community of people all around the world.
So awesome. Well, I'm excited to see where it goes, because it just makes so much sense. That number, like you mentioned, like the S&P 500, or like, it's just one of those things that I think awareness is the big thing. Once people know about it, I think about some of the people, you mentioned how early on people looked at you like you were crazy if you talked about crypto. Well, now some of those people are starting to get interested, and a lot of the first moves that they make is, of course, Bitcoin, and then maybe start to dabble with things like Ethereum. But something like that, where they're like, oh, I want to bet on the full market. I think it makes perfect sense. But as I mentioned, we got the last 3 questions. It's a segment that we call You Had Me at Crypto. So Ulf's going to ask you these.
Good.
All right, Joe, you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first question, who is your favorite person to follow in the crypto space?
Who's my favorite person to follow in the crypto space? There's so many. I think Mike Dudas is obviously, one of my favorites, because he just keeps it real. Always has an opinion on something. So I like Dudas. Meltem is really cool to read her stuff, because she's just got like a really wild take on a lot of different things. So I think that she's absolutely a dope human being and very cool to follow. Who else do I like? Dudas, Meltem. Frankie Shapiro at the block, because he's always breaking the scoops, and I love reading about things that he posts that the mainstream media posts like 4 months later. I think that's really cool. So those will probably be like my top 3.
Cool. All right, second question, what will the price of Bitcoin be 10 years from now?
Oh my God. 10 years from now, I would say over 300,000.
All right. Okay.
It's one of the lower,
That's modest,
like
yeah.
average I'd say is million that we get. You're like the 50 somethingth episode. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say over 300K. And I'm just trying to be like, I would love for it to be over 1 million. I mean, but I just try to think in terms of like cycles and like the booms and busts of like what we've seen. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, it could be anywhere between 300, 1 million. It all depends on where we're at, you know, but over 300, I would fathom.
Cool. All right. Third question. What is the most underrated coin or project in all of crypto?
Well, I mean, this would be a great time.
Other than TCAP.
No self-promotion here.
Most underrated project that I see right now, probably Chainlink. And I'm not even just saying that because we work. One of the reasons why we work with them is because they're so good at what they do. And I think that the ability for Link in the future, I mean, it's powering everything. And I think when the broader market realizes what the magnitude of that statement, I think it's people are in for a surprise with that.
Yeah, good point. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for joining Ulf and I on this episode of Show Me the Crypto.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you for listening to Show Me the Crypto. Please make sure to subscribe as well as rate and review this podcast.